Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Not for Broadcast. We are here in Copenhagen. We are done with the group stage and the first bit of playoffs. It is currently, we are recording this on a Thursday. We're going to go to rehearsals in a couple hours, and then we are all ready to go for the final 3 days of the International, where we actually get to go to the stadium. Well, the casters have already been to the stadium, but we're actually all going to go to the stadium. Fans are going to be there. We're going to get to see what TI looks like. We already got a sneak peek. I would say it looks very good. I think the setup looks very nice. I'm looking forward to the crowd setup as well, where they kind of have it in like a U formation with the TV. So everyone's kind of looking at the TV, which means it should be loud, which I'm looking forward to because I believe we're sold out or close to it. I've heard it's going to be a packed arena. So very much looking forward to this TI.
Yeah.
Great contribution as always, Avery. We'll talk about the International, what's been going on so far. You mother.
What, man? What do you want me to add to that? Same, dude. I'm looking forward to it. Looks cool. It's a circus theme. I look forward to seeing people lift the Aegis in the middle of the circus. That's going to be...
Yeah, it is. It is kind of it looks really nice, but it is funny how the theme kind of does go against the gravitas and majesty of the International.
Yeah, it's like you're the ultimate clowns. Lift your trophy now, clowns.
Congratulations on winning TI, the same prize pool or less actually than TI3. I looked it up. I think we're still like $50,000 shy of TI3 or something like that. So
I don't know. I mean, prize pool doesn't really matter anymore. There's enough money in the scene anyway.
That is true. Most of the players that I've talked to have said that they don't really like them. They care about the money prize pool for TI, but when it comes down to it, they really just want to win TI because it has always been legacy wise the tournament.
Yeah, of course.
They want to have their name on the Aegis.
And doing well at TI is going to translate to money for you anyway. If you get top 3 or top 6, you're going to get a higher salary next year. So
yeah,
like these things aren't just completely exclusive. I feel like if I played nowadays compared to when I played, even if those TIs were 20 or 30 million, I would probably make more in a year now than I would then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably fair. I think that's something that the community probably loses sight of because we don't really have reporters, really. Like, I'm sure there are a couple out there, but we don't really get like the same kind of inside info that we see out of other esports, particularly like Counter-Strike. I mean, we talked about on this stream how one of the talent had like a bunch of relatively like on point numbers for salary for all of these teams, right? And I feel like we don't even have that at all here in Dota. So I think the Dota audience loses sight of that, and where they're like, oh, these guys only won, like $200,000 each or something like that for this tournament. But, we don't know how much they're getting salary wise and how that can increase due to them winning tournaments. So
I know.
Well, feel free to share it with us.
I can't, but I can tell you it's a lot. And I think most players would take it over a super high-end TI distribution outside of like the top 2 teams.
It's more reliable this way, right?
Yeah.
What would you say prize pool to salary? What's the percent there? Do you think that makes up the entire amount of money they make in a year for like an average tier 1 team? Let's not say Gaming Gladiators because they won Rion. That's obviously like a really high prize pool, but like a Liquid, Falcons, Spirit, obviously you wouldn't know, but
I mean, it does literally depend on how many tournaments you win, but I think it could approach a 50-50. I think you're looking at player salaries. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to give a large range, but for top teams in Dota, you're looking at somewhere between 200 to 300K, maybe a little more a year, right?
Yep.
Depending on how many tournaments you win. So to make that up in winnings, excluding like, okay, you won Riyadh, there, you just doubled it. I think if you win 2 or 3 lands a year, you're probably matching that on average, taking all the others into account plus those, right?
Yeah.
A couple like, I don't know. I mean, most of these tournaments are $1 million tournaments. The first place is 250 or 500K, which means you're taking, 30 to 60 personally. So if you win 3, you're almost doubling it with random other tournaments thrown in there.
Yeah.
So I think that puts it kind of in perspective, right? I think the top Dota players are probably taking in $500,000 a year.
So talking about this TI and predictions specifically, Avery, you really, really nailed it on some predictions. My God, you were just perfect accuracy, 10 out of 10, headshot. And then on other predictions, you almost couldn't be more wrong.
No, we don't have to talk about those. Let's talk about the ones I got right, Austin. The bottom four.
The bottom four.
All four, baby.
4 out of 4.
Give it to me. Too good.
Well done, Avery.
I'm just good at picking losers, honestly. That's all I think a lot of you guys wouldn't have put the G2IG in there. I think that was the dangerous one. But I knew.
I mean, I agreed with you on that one. That's for sure.
I didn't want to put my
I just want to point out. I just want to point out your original bottom four was different, and I steered you away from that.
No, don't take credit for this. Originals are irrelevant. It's what you lock.
Roll back the clip.
It's what you lock.
Avery
back
was
in
like
the end.
Nouns bottom four, and then I said
I did not lock him in.
Yeah, because you listened.
I did not lock him
to some great outside advice.
I thought through it. You know, small effect. I'll give you that, but ultimately it was my choice. I locked in all four, baby. 4 for 4. Let's go.
You did get the bottom four. You are very good at choosing losers. I don't know if you got the 9th through 12th. Obviously, we have to talk about the really wrong prediction because you had Team Spirit winning this international, and instead they got 9th through 12th, which I think was a shock to most people. I mean, maybe shock is a little too hard because they did get last place, or I keep saying last place. They got 13th through 16th when I guess technically there were 20 teams at TI 12. But they did bomb out. So, like, there is history of them doing it before. But they also, I think that year, they didn't look that good, right? I felt like they did not have as good as a year as they did this year. Where I thought they were kind of, like they at least looked like a top 8 team.
I don't know what happened at this event. I'm not even convinced they were that bad.
No.
Like, I think if you ran the simulations, they probably finished in the top 8 more than half the time.
Yeah, but then they picked Tinker.
That's what I'm saying. I don't really understand. Like, I don't even think this meta is bad for them. It's not some hyper push meta. I think the one bad component when I looked at their games and watched is I think they never figured out what to do between Collapse and Yatoro. And I think that is the bulk of when that team wins games. They know that. Like, they figure out what those two guys are playing and why. That's how they're going to drive the wins. Not that the rest of the teams are relevant, but that's like every team has something like you have to activate certain players, and if you don't, you're just screwed. To me, those are those two guys. I think the rest played.
I mean, Laurel was certainly, I think, activated.
Yeah,
I think he played pretty well at this tournament. He had his heroes. He was popping. Yeah. I think draft-wise, I think Mira, there were definitely some games. I mean, I'm just going to point to the Nouns matchup where they double drafted Tinker for him. That did
honestly,
not look
though, I don't even think it was relevant, honestly. I think it's the two side lanes. Like, I think Collapse hero pool this event, I think they figured it out towards the end. Like, they're more willing to pick the Mars, the Sand King, the Kunkka, whatever. I think he kind of got there. It's not super optimal for him, but it was there. I think Yatoro was I think they were just off on the carry meta.
I mean, Yatoro has been off, I think, for most of the year. I think on the carry meta, it's just that they have managed to get through it anyway. I mean, we've talked about how he's complained about the carry pool right now. We talked about how he's picking these random heroes in pubs that are just not meta. We talked about how the fact that he doesn't want to play, he clearly doesn't want to play because he doesn't even try most of the time to play like Duraccio or Mickey.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right? I think it's not necessarily a hero thing. It's like a play style thing. Like, these carries that are getting super active very early on in that 15 to 25 minute window are generally the most impactful right now. And it's just not his play style.
Yeah.
He can do it, but it's like they didn't really figure out how to do it here. And I think they ended up in this carry hero pool that he felt he could 1v5 the game with, like these hyper carry Marana, Lena type heroes, but they weren't using them as well as other teams. And it just, I don't know, it just felt flat to me.
Yeah. Even when the times where Team Spirit was actually playing quite fast, I think the series we casted against G2IG, they actually played really fast there.
Yeah.
And Yatoro kind of did do that, but I think it was him just kind of like tagging along. where who was actually making that happen was Laurel and Collapse, right? Like those guys were like running at you pretty fast and they were making moves nonstop. And then, you know, your Toro's just kind of along for the ride.
But I mean, what do we know, right? We're just armchair analysts, quite literally. Sure, that team will figure out what went wrong to them and maybe come back. Maybe they won't. Could be the last tournament with that roster.
Could be.
We never know.
I mean, we'll probably find out just because they do their vlog. I don't know if you watched any of the ones from this event, but
I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, like the last one that they did where Laurel was talking about how the Tinker pickup, how he just wanted to play heroes that they were comfortable with.
Yeah,
you brought it up in the cast.
I feel like more often than not, that kind of response is just because the game felt bad, but it's not always the reason why.
Fair.
Like players are always going to have this knee-jerk reaction when you come out of a loss, and it's like we couldn't do anything because of this hero and this hero. But in reality, it's like you just oftentimes it's not you couldn't do something; it's you didn't know what you were supposed to do with these heroes.
Yeah,
like it's not like Tinker's a bad hero, but you have to play a certain way with him to get the most, right?
Yeah,
and maybe it doesn't fit that team, which I agree with, but I don't know, man. Really weird tournament for them, honestly. I still not convinced they're like a bottom 12 team or something, right?
Yeah,
I just again, I think if you run the simulation, it's not true. Maybe they don't win this event, but whatever. I'm going to say they're going to win because I wanted them to win. Because fuck all these other European teams. They're full of their egos. I don't want Quinn to win another TI. Another ex-teammate's going, oh, you know, Snake can get another one. Liquid game in finals? No.
Yeah, you're in a really bad spot. Well, you're rooting for Tundra at this point.
Yeah, I actually am.
Because you got Game of Gladiators, Falcons, Liquid. You don't want any of those guys to win. So
I mean, I'd be fine with Tundra winning. Thompson 3-time, goated conversation. I think it'd be a cool storyline.
And Reddit is already heralding him. I mean, it's crazy. Reddit is already being like, is Thompson the GOAT?
Yeah.
He's made it to the upper bracket semifinal. He's made top 6, but people are already like, is this guy actually the GOAT? If he does it, which it's still
I mean, he would be if he
go,
does, but
yeah.
Honestly, Soxa might be like, how do you fucking win TIs a stand in that way?
Yeah, seriously.
I think a TI also is like people always just want underdogs or the crazier story to win. Like people generally don't want the favorites to win TI. It's just not as interesting, right? Like if Gambit or Liquid wins this TI, it's not that interesting of a story. Not hating on those teams. I mean, maybe for Liquid, it's a bit more interesting than Gambit.
It's a little bit more interesting, especially if they beat Gaming Gladiators in the finals, but nobody will have watched the finals because they'll assume it's going to be a 3-0. So
yes, so that's like a different kind of situation. But I think the most interesting would be Tundra because I think honestly they've just had the most interesting games this event.
Yeah.
They're just a fun team to watch.
They are a fun team to watch.
You know, I think this podcast bias aside, I think they genuinely had the most fun games, like the Tundra, was it Falcon series? Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Pure Manta Dodge and all, like.
Yeah, Pure was popping off.
Yeah.
I mean, Pure is definitely the best carry, I think, of this.
Exactly. So
this event when it comes to performance.
I think Cloud9 would be interesting because that would just be, I think, if you look at odds, they would have to be, I think, the team, if they won, that overcame the smallest odds to win.
Sure.
Like, there's no way anybody had them winning this event. And they got a shot now. They're cruising through this meta.
Yeah, they look very, very strong. They, again, had their own specific hero pool in previous events when they look good. I'm not sure if their hero pool is quite as unique as it was when they were doing, like, Spirit Breaker, for example, and no one had some different heroes in there. But no one's playing very, very well. Just continuing the performance we saw at Riyadh from him.
Yeah. Team's just confident.
Yeah.
Counts for a lot.
They did kind of, you said they choked on that last series they played at Riyadh. I actually don't remember the series very well, but do you think that there's a chance that happens again? Where they just look really good, full of momentum, and then just...
Yeah, I think that's more likely than not. I think it's more likely they eventually just run in a series and they get 2-0 and they look like absolute dog shit. It's just over from there.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think their play style is very predictable, and if you watch replays and understand what they're doing, it's not hard to figure out. So if you go up against a team who has a good plan to exploit it, I don't think they're a team that can adjust mid-series to overcome like a first game loss where someone has them figured out. I think if they get figured out, they're just kind of done.
Okay, so what is their play style then?
Very greedy 4.
Yeah.
Who brings up the damage slack. And a very, like, I don't want to say a slow game, but a very controlled game. They don't want to get sucked into a bunch of like early game skirmishy and shit. If you look at what their off lane's doing different than a lot of other teams at this event. One is Katayomi is very greedy. He's the greediest four at this event. I think the stat that I was looking at today even is like he has the highest GPM of any four at this tournament.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of farm priority. He's playing heroes that abuse that. That's something you can exploit. It means their early game's a lot slower and they don't have a lot of rotation power in the mid. So the teams that have really good mids that they're gonna roam through, like these Game and Liquids, in theory should be a really bad matchup for them because you just crash the power runes, you try and gank this guy mid, classic Quinn gameplay, and like this Katayomi guy is in theory potentially a liability in those types of fights. Like something like a Winter Wyvern's just not impacting those rune fights. I'm telling you, it's not as much when it comes down to it. And DM, I think he's like still the highest KDA player at this tournament. The guy's just not dying. Part of that, I think, is he's playing really well. I think he's playing better than he has in a long time. But I think part of that is they like this like controlled style. Like they want to be able to choose when they enter fights and what those look like instead of getting sucked into them. And I think the Western European teams that play faster than them, that will drag them into those fights, like with a really fast carry, an Doraccio Alchemist, a Mickey Furion, these types of things. I don't think you can control when these fights are, like, you have to be ready to take them even when you're not.
Sure.
And I think those are going to be tough matchups.
Okay, so it sounds like to me you are very pessimistic about Cloud9 being able to make it through the upper bracket matchups.
I think Liquid's very favored versus them, yes, on paper.
Do you think, in which case, it seems Liquid versus Game and Gladiators is very likely to happen unless Tundra can step up. Now, do you think Tundra is better suited to deal with these teams?
Yes. Tundra is, because they're a bit more chaotic. Thompson is he'll like meet you in all those fights, right? And even if they don't win them, he'll like mess them up in a way where you don't necessarily snowball. I think there's a chance Tundra get run over in some of the games, first gaming, but I don't think it's going to be a 2-0, and I think Tundra's probably able to match the Western European pace a bit better than Cloud9. I think Tundra's also just playing at a higher ceiling level. Like their potential has been higher this event. If they really come out swinging at 100 out of 100, which is a big wild card. We don't really know what their performance is going to be like on the main stage. They're not as seasoned, not as tested. They still have the stand-in factor. Like things do matter in the clutch and when there's a crowd and the pressure's on, right? Sure. I think we've seen Pure rise to the occasion, but we've also seen him falter a bit, particularly in that deep run at EWC. Yeah. Like I don't think his performance in the last few games he played at that tournament was as good as his average for the event where he was crushing. So those things, right? If you slip a little, it seems like Gaming's not going to slip. They're going to go in there and do what they've done the entire year, the last 2 years, play the same way, do the same shit. And if you choke a little, you just get fucking demolished. So it's not a fun opponent to play against. You really have to have everything clicking for you. Yeah.
And they've had setbacks and they've shown they can bounce back from them over and over and over again.
So I think it's close. It's not the best meta for gaming. Even talking to Quinn, I think he said it at some point. I mean, maybe he wouldn't say now, maybe they have figured out now, but it's not like a hyper death ball meta, which I think is their optimal.
Yeah.
But it's still a good patch for them. And they know what they're doing.
I would say this is probably the best meta that it has been for the last year, maybe the last 2 years for Liquid. I think Liquid is very well set up. I think the playstyle and hero pool is right up Nikkei's alley. I think he feels very, very comfortable right now. I think 33 feels more integrated into the Liquid squad than he has been. We haven't really seen any, I think, setbacks for him.
I mean, if this is not the TI Liquid wins, like, I don't know what it's going to be. To be honest, like, this is literally their meta. All the carries are these fast-paced, ranged, weird carry heroes that win Luna. Like Luna, Monkey, Furion, Wind Ranger is literally Mickey's hero pool.
Yeah.
Mid is all these just like kind of control-y team fighters with, the Kunkka Earth Spirit, Void Spirit, whatever.
Puckstorm.
Which is literally
a monster on those.
Yeah, so you have your like mobile carries that'll destroy the late game. You're happy to give him.
Yeah.
And you have these like random Kunkkas and whatever that he's going to play and do well, right?
Yeah.
Your offlane pool is literally just Doom, Visage, Enigma, Orbit. Like, that is literally 33, right?
Yeah.
I don't like, all these fours, like these melee fours are kind of back a little bit, like Tusk.
Yeah.
Like one of Foxy's best heroes, right? And then the 5 is literally a saving 5.
Yeah.
It's literally
the
like
fact that we go into a heal meta is like perfect timing for Insania.
That's what I think of that guy, right? He's an Oracle player.
He's an Oracle
and player. Every 5 right now is basically Oracle. It's like Oracle, Treant, Tinker, Omni Knight, Io, Tusk. It's like I don't know. If you can't win this event as Liquid, like, I don't know, man. Time to change the roster because you're never going to get a meta as good.
Yeah, that's the funny part is, like, when I think about the meta, I think about anything less than grand finals appearance is a disappointment to Liquid. But then they've all gotten so many second places, and they have this whole, like, you can't actually win a big tournament sort of thing hanging over them, that second place would also be a disappointment. So it's pretty much only first place. It's first or nothing, it feels like, for Liquid at this point.
Yeah. I think if they got third, it might even be better than second.
Probably. Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I think they are favored against Cloud9. I think it's maybe a 60-40. I think if they win that, they're just top 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're either looking at a Tundra or Gaming upper bracket, which they're probably got better odds against Tundra than Gaming, I would have to think, despite what William would probably say.
Sure.
But I think, I don't know, man. It's going to be a lot of European teams in those, like, final 6.
Yeah. We've got Western Europe, all 4.
So that's the big question to me of this TI is, like, can one of these non-European teams make a deep run to the final 3 or final 2? It's pretty much only XG you're looking at, because I don't think Aurora's getting top 3. Like, I'm not going to hate on them. I think they're doing better than a lot of people thought. But let's be real, man. They have been, like, limping across the finish line in a lot of these series and games, barely making it.
And they play so slow.
There's no way.
As soon as they run into Game Gladiators or Liquid.
And they're just not even playing that well. I think even they would say it. Like, these games, I don't think have felt good for them. There's a lot of mistakes. It's very slow. All these, like, 2-kill games at 40 minutes, they drag out and win with a faceless void. Brother, you ain't winning the tournament with that shit. I'll tell you that much. Like, I think they're a fun team to watch, but I think they probably have 1 or 2 more series left, right?
Yeah.
So I think the only team you're really looking at that's going to compete with these European teams is XG.
And XG, I did not have the most faith in. I mean, I thought Team Spirit was just going to take out both Chinese teams in their lower bracket run. I felt like pretty confident about that. I was very surprised that XG managed to make the upset that they did.
Yep.
But I think some teams just step up when they're matched up against Team Spirit.
That's true. They own that series, though. Like, those last 2 games, they played really fast.
Yeah.
Something switched. And I think those were the best games I've seen from them the entire event in terms of strategy. And they brought a little innovation to the table, like with things like Undying, but they conceptually understood why they're picking and what they're using for, and they hit their timings, and they gave XM his turret heroes.
Yeah, I was about to say, didn't they win off of 2 sniper games?
Yes, that's the one concerning factor of that. But some of those heroes are viable in the meta. We've been seeing some Viper, been seeing, like, Lina. He plays Storm, snipers in the pool.
Yeah.
If they play to his hero pool, it's not that bad. It's probably a little slower, but if you play well around it, that's fine. I think it's also okay to play a little slower in the lower bracket, because games are going to be naturally slower and teams aren't going to play as fast and execute as well.
For fear of elimination.
Yeah. So if you're a slower team in the lower bracket, it's actually not that bad for you. Like, it can sometimes work to your advantage, especially if you are the one who's won some of the previous matches.
Yeah.
Like, because you just build a bunch of momentum. You're the one figuring out what works for you. You're the one building up steam and just kind of clobbering all these teams that are choking into you, who normally would play faster and kill you, but they aren't because they're worried about getting eliminated and there's nerves. So I think XG could actually make a deep run right now. They're poised for it. But a lot might come down to their matchup against Falcons if they meet them, and that team's still down there.
Yeah, that is definitely the most dangerous team in the elimination. I mean, the fact that we had this big upset, and I think a lot of people are excited about it. Oh, look at all these expected top tier teams being knocked down to the lower bracket, and it made TI super exciting. But then it just ended up being the fact that, okay, now all these top tier teams are in the lower bracket against some very weak teams, and they were just demolished.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that maybe some of that excitement went away because of that. But now we're getting to the top 8, and it'll be interesting to see who managed to make it through. I think there were some other people that we talked about that early on, that we said potential dark horses, then none of them came through, I think, which was Team Zero. I think a lot of people had them as a potential dark horse. I mean, a lot of people just like to think, oh, they're the next Wings or something like that.
I had them getting bottom 4, so.
Yeah, you put them down there. The one win, I think I had them as a potential dark horse. I mean, obviously they even showed it before this tournament, by being able to get second in ESV and take Liquid to the distance, but they did not look. They didn't look like the one win that I've seen for the last 6 months.
Experience counts for a lot of TI.
Yeah.
When your team's just 5 first-time TI players, it's rough, man.
Yeah.
It's rough. So,
and then Nouns, I think was another disappointment because this is probably, I think this was the best that Nouns has looked in these various iterations. I think coming into this tournament, it was the best that they've looked, and then came the TI, and they got an upset.
I mean, one game away from top 6.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it.
It's as close as you can get, and then it's just.
But I feel like for me, it's just like, oh, it's a repeat of what was it, last year? Yeah, where they dropped down and met Shopify. This time there was no, or excuse me, TSM. This time there was no interregional matchup for them to run into in the lower bracket. So
yeah, sucks for NA, man.
Yeah, NA, sad.
It's just too hard to compete out of that region. You just don't get enough consistent practice throughout the year. It always fucks you in the end. It's like literally what I think it comes down to. Just.
Yep. And that story is also the same, I think, with Southeast Asia and China, right?
Yep.
It's like the server that you practice on seems to matter. Talk to a lot of players that kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
So your pubs are important.
I mean, you can just see it in the players that are coming out of these regions. Like the new guys that get picked up from Europe are just so much better than the new guys from these other regions.
Yeah.
So that's who you're playing against most of the year. That's who you're practicing against. That's who you're getting ideas from, or the way you're thinking about the game. Just a handicap. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to overcome that at TI, especially on random land, sure, but when the stakes matter, your practice counts for a lot. Repetition, your habits, what's baked into you matters. There's only so much they can overcome it. I think Nouns honestly played kind of well, and I think their meta understanding was honestly pretty good. And I think, like, I didn't look at any of their drafts and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I think all their drafts were pretty solid. They had good ideas behind them. They were pretty much on meta. The games were close. It's just, you're looking at, 1 to 5% differences that are going to win or lose you a series. I just think it comes down to that, honestly.
Yeah.
If Nouns had been able to play and practice and scrim against European teams the entire year, like, they might be gaming in that series.
Yeah.
So my condolences go out to them, but I mean, that is the NA curse at this point. Play from a dead region, you return to the dead. They roll you back in the cemetery for another round. Ripperino.
So I guess the last thing to talk about would be predictions for the final 3 days. So I guess you already have Cloud9, very unlikely to win their matchup. So do you think we're seeing Liquid Gaming Gladiators upper bracket finals?
Unfortunately, yes.
Do it.
Unfortunately, yes, I think we are, but I will be rooting for Tundra.
Okay. We will be.
I will be rooting against anybody outside of Liquid Gaming. I'm sorry. Like, nothing against those teams, but dear God, please somebody beat these 2 teams. I cannot do it anymore, Austin. I can't. Just please somebody. So go Cloud9, go Tundra, go XG, go Falcons even. I don't care. Somebody beat these goddamn 2 teams.
Okay.
Because this Western European double team dynasty bullshit has gone on long enough. If they can't beat them up, I have to go out there and beat them up myself and take the fucking fine in court so we can get somebody else in the fucking podium.
You could go out there and just break somebody's wrist.
Yeah, I'll break Quinn's arm. I know he watches this show.
It shouldn't be too hard.
I know he watches this show. I'll do it. I mean,
Avery's been working out, it's finally to put those muscles.
Oh, and I hope so. But yeah, I think if you're looking at percentages, like I said, 60-40 Liquid wins. I think it's maybe 55-45 Gaming wins.
Okay.
That one's a lot closer, though.
Yeah.
I think Falcons is BB Falcons. I think Falcons win.
Yeah.
I think, though I'm not very big on Falcons this event. I'll be honest.
No, I don't think they've looked super good.
I do not think even that series is that one-sided. Like, I think BB actually has a decent shot to win that. Like 30 to 40% shot.
Yeah.
Falcons have just not looked crisp at all. I think the something about ATF at TIs, man, I'm telling you. Something about his playstyle at TI is just does not end up being conducive. I'm not sure what it is, but when I think back on a lot of TIs, I feel like greedy offlaners historically don't do well, no matter what the meta is. And the teams that have the like playmaking aura buying offlaners generally do well at TI.
Simplicity of execution.
Yeah, like you want the guy who just goes in and blinks stuns in the clutch that wins you the fight, or you want the guy who has 10 auras and you push. Right? You either want the 33 Wraith Pack buyer or a master. You want Seb with his Solar Crest, Omni Knight bullshit, or a master, right? You want the Blink Stun Initiator collapse. Like, I feel like if you go back the last 5 or 6 TIs, it's been one of those two. And the greedy offlaners, the guys who just farm like these Enigma players and these Razor Viper players, which what ATF is like, they just don't win.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard, I think. So that's the one thing I have against him. And if ATF is not going ham, then that team is not going to win. He's too big a component, right? Yeah. Not only because he's taking a lot of farm, but like that's that guy's purpose.
The team's built around him.
It's not built, but it's like it's dependent on him. Sure. Like if that guy is having a bad game, you're kind of just fucked. Because he's not going to play a hero that can have a bad game.
Yeah.
Right? He cannot be like the 8th net worth Sand King and own a game. He has to be a top 2 or 3 net worth out of the lanes, Razor, Viper, anti-carry, Doom, whatever, and playing confident and cruising. And he'll decimate people. World-class player. But like, you need to be in that position. And how reliably can you do that at TI? I don't know. So far, not that reliably, at least historically. Doesn't mean it couldn't change, but I just can't really think of a greedy offlaner that ended up winning TI. I genuinely can't think of a single one.
Final prediction. Your prediction for winning TI is gone, so now you get a do-over. Now you've seen footage of the teams. You see everyone's position in the bracket. Who's going to win this TI?
I don't want to predict this. I don't want to predict it because the team I have to say that I think is most likely, I don't want to say. So I'm not going to.
What?
Instead, I think it's going to be XG making the miracle run, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Do it for the boys. Ame, the uncrowned king.
Wait, but
from the lower bracket.
But the audience doesn't even know if you mean Gaming Gladiators or Liquid. Because you would hate to predict either one of them.
That's the beauty of it. I'll let you decide at home, you know? I'll let you decide.
Let us know in the comments below which team you think Avery actually thinks is going to win TI and really doesn't want to say. And who you guys think your prediction is to be able to win this international. Hopefully we'll be able to get this video out not too long before TI starts. But other than that, is there anything else you want to talk about? Our experience has been good. We've been chill. We've just been doing 1 series a day. We're here in the hotel that's like literally a 5-minute walk away from the arena. So those kind of setups are always super, super chill. We just walk to the arena every day, cast a best of 3, head out. There hasn't really been any drama or anything like that, like there was at Riyadh. Nothing major. I don't think we have any news about any sort of roster shuffles or anything like that just yet. Even though it's definitely happening, but obviously a lot of that news is pretty fresh and nothing's really out there settled yet. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Gambit.Finance, and you could head to that website to do any fantasy shenanigans you're looking at, make some predictions. Speaking of predictions, who do you think has looked the best player-wise at this tournament? Who've been the players that have stood out to you? Got to be Pure. Pure's got to be one of them.
Yeah, Pure. Nikkei. Boxy from Liquid, I think.
Nikkei Boxy.
Pure. And Hobson from Tundra. Maybe Ace from Gaiman.
No other players?
And
just Ace?
I think they've all been playing well, but they're more of like a team, you know?
Yeah, I feel like their players don't really stand out a lot of the times.
I think Malrain's looked really good.
Yeah.
That team's been struggling more than I think they want, but that guy has looked really good initially.
Yes.
Yeah.
he's definitely having strong performance. Sounds like a lot of mids are having strong performance, because I would say Extreme, I mean, maybe it's just because the sniper performance that he just had, but XM seems to be doing pretty well.
He's super hit or miss, but in the games he owns. Honestly, I would look towards the supports on that team. I think DY has been owning him. That guy's a beast.
Yeah.
Definitely the best 5 in China.
They popped off in that last series for sure.
Yeah, like DY, Jinq, I would look towards that team. I think those are the guys who either win them or lose them games.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. No other teams you want to mention?
Save from DB.
Yes. Save
That
has
guy's
been
a
playing
monster.
super well.
He is absolutely carrying that squad right
Dude,
now.
it's
not even close.
unbelievable how, like, his Coddle performance was like, he was just setting them up.
Coddle,
so easy. It
his
was like
Lion
T-ball
games,
out there.
like his Lion, Bat, and Coddle games have just been ungodly.
Dude, that guy is going to be super high value after
Yes.
TI when it comes to, like, if Bet Boom do fall apart, they make some sort of roster shuffles or something like that. I know Save has shopped to some other European teams in the past.
Yeah, he speaks very good English.
Yeah,
so,
like he would be a huge pickup for
would not
many
be
teams.
I'd actually not be surprised to see him and Miro coached potentially as a package. I think Miro is like, I think offlaner is always high demand, and I think that guy's very solid and still has a lot of potential to grow. And he seems like a very chill, humble, hardworking dude.
Yes, he does.
I would not be surprised if both those guys get poached potentially, or to try and move to like a Western Europe team just to, get better scrim partners or whatever. But obviously, there's a lot there.
Okay. Anybody from Aurora? Again, Aurora has kind of been limping along.
Not really. I mean, I think in the late game, Lornoff definitely carries them, but like that team has just been a struggle fest, man. So I can't say like, oh, I was super impressed by this individual person's gameplay or whatever.
Yeah.
So looking at the player prices, Boxy is number 1, which I think is reasonable. He's a stand-up. We talked about him from Liquid. He's a stand-up player, having a great event. Yeah. He's kind of the biggest shot caller on Liquid. If Liquid's doing well, which they look like they're poised to do.
Is he performing well enough to deserve a top spot?
I think so. I think there's a fine argument there.
Okay.
Maureen is up there as well, even though Falcons are not performing too well. He's the player I mentioned. I think he's the one from that I would rank pretty highly.
Sure. I mean, for being a lower bracket team, though, that seems, I feel like obviously any team that's in the upper bracket, those players should probably be higher value, right? Just because they're more likely to win the event, frankly.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm surprised how high Falcons are, considering they're doing this, but maybe people just expect them to win more.
Yeah.
In that lower bracket. And a lot of it's just game and Liquid. And the one Tundra player that's up there is Soxon.
Not Thompson.
No.
What happened?
People just like Soxon, dude. I don't know. Like, the guy's a beast. He's a stand-in. He's top 6 as a stand-in last minute. Didn't even play all year.
Yeah.
What a monster.
He's the most recent TI winner in that squad, not Thompson. So
that's like the whole of gaming. And then we get some Cloud9 dudes in there. Now we're getting in the Cloud9, Tundra, XG area. That's the interesting part. Ame still the highest from XG.
How high up is no one? Because I feel like no one is the best performing player on
right under Thompson. Right, he is tied with Thompson, actually.
Okay.
So people are rating them about on par. I think that's kind of reasonable. I think Thompson's played well, but I think no one's played way above what people would have expected him this year.
Yeah.
So I think that part's actually interesting. Be surprised how well Cloud9 do, because right now they're rated pretty high, but they could just lose their next 2 series and then people are like, oh, I knew they were overrated. Blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, bro. And Spirit's still rated pretty high, even though they're eliminated. So I think that goes to show that my prediction was, still pretty on point there. I will say
the market agreed with your analysis.
Yes, I will say the one player I think is criminally underrated.
Okay, number 1 underrated player
is Save. Yeah, he's not that low, but like he's lowest on his team. They're down there, maybe in that like 15th to 20th range. But I'm telling you, if EV team manages to win some series in that lower bracket, it's on this guy.
Yeah,
like absolutely. So I think he's still my most underrated player of the tournament.
Okay. Well, if you guys want to check out more, Gambit Finance is where you go. And other than that, that's going to close out the episode of Not for Broadcast. We will record another episode, obviously, post-TI. We'll try and get that as soon as possible, but this will be the last one from Copenhagen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.